He and his lovely wife were in their 80s and wanted to live in their townhome full-time with no more gardening, etc. We had arrived in Canada 23rd May and moved into our new home on 9th June. Which system do you prefer, UK or Canada? The previous owners had honored the contract and left enough chairs, tables, beds, complete with sheets and all kinds of goodies and ornaments to make the place livable right from the start. They had even placed new bars of soap in the bathroom, tissues, cleaning materials, notepads and pens in the desk, and much more. This was so thoughtful and was much appreciated. It meant that we didn't have to rush out and buy stuff at regular retail prices. We could live reasonably comfortably and wait until the things we wanted to replace came on sale. Thank you, Jacques and Gilbert. May you continue in good health for many years to come. We spent the first couple of days solving the usual riddles. Which switches operated which lights, and discovering all the little nooks and crannies that are never noticed until one moves into a new home. We then rearranged everything to make it our home and explored the huge garden. It was so exciting to discover all the little hideaways among the many pine and maple trees. It was wonderful to think and talk about us two kids from the relative poverty of northern England that now had their own little forest complete with a well-built house and the peace and tranquility that comes with country life. It came to mind that we were so lucky to have overcome so many hardships and upsets and still able to spend our twilight years in this lovely place with the good health to enjoy it. Life can be good, and one can make dreams come true with determination and concentration on the important things. Health, being with the one you love, friends, and accepting the fact that not everybody can live in a palace full of goodies. You can live on very little if you try. However, we all tend to buy things which we don't really need, but which are cleverly marketed these days. We were bubbling over with happiness, so I rang my brother Ian to share it with him. He was so very pleased and relieved that we had found this place and begged me to stay there for longer than usual. I laughed when he said, "I'm running out of lines under H and can't afford another address book." It was a good chat, and I'm sure we both went to bed feeling content with life. You see, Ian had stability, a thriving business, 2 wonderful children, a super 1-year-old grandson, James, whom he idolized, and all the things that makes life enjoyable and comfortable. He once told me that even though he sometimes envied Rita and I for all the adventures and experiences we had lived through, he felt sad that we didn't have the good fortune to be blessed with children and the stability that they bring. Having said that, I'm sure you will understand why I am still angry and heartbroken that I have to relate the next part of my story. It is a personal tragedy that I am sure you have experienced. We had been in the house for only 4 days when I received a telephone call from my nephew Paul in England telling me that his father, my brother Ian, was seriously ill, having suffered what was thought to be a major heart attack. 5 hours later, after numerous telephone calls to airlines and the hospital, I was flying out of Montreal. I called the doctor from the airport at 1 p.m. England time, and he advised me that they had done all that they could for my brother, but he would probably not make it through the night. This couldn't be. I pleaded for more to be done, and even offered as much money as I could muster, but he compassionately explained that they had done everything possible. I was devastated. My 55-year-old kid brother, with everything to live for, was at death's door. You can imagine what that flight was like. I was like a zombie and crying incessantly. Yes, crying at 59 years of age in public. British Airways were fantastic. They treated me royally with understanding and upgraded me to business class. My niece Lisa, expecting her first child on 24th October, and her husband Nigel and his parents met me at Manchester Airport. Their tears and expressions indicated that Ian hadn't made it. He had died at 1:30 a.m., 30 minutes after my call from Montreal. All I could keep saying was, "It should have been me." None of the family or Ian's many friends could understand this sudden tragedy. He had been golfing a couple of days earlier and looked his normal self, very fit and healthy. God, I miss him, and it will be an awful long time before I get over my grief and anger. I'm sure you have had a similar sadness. There were lots of matters to be attended to. The first thing was to confirm exactly the cause of death. It turned out that Ian had suffered a heart attack sometime in the past, unbeknown to him, and this had apparently resulted in a blood clot that traveled to his brain. This was later confirmed by the autopsy. I had, of course, kept Rita advised every few hours, and she really wanted to be with me. Bob had kindly picked her up from our house after driving me to the airport and taken her to stay at his house until I returned. Anyhow, my family convinced me that she should fly to England immediately, and she too flew within hours of my telephone call. Whilst we were all coping with the grief and making all the funeral arrangements, Rita arrived at London's Heathrow Airport. She then had to fly to Manchester, and Nigel and I would pick her up there. We checked to see if the flight was on time. You won't believe this. The computers were down at all the UK's airports, and she was stuck in London. I called British Airways and said I would pick her up from Heathrow, as I didn't want her staying in London overnight under the sad circumstances. They assured me they would get her on a flight to Manchester no later than 4:30 p.m. that afternoon. I called at that time, and BA said they would take Rita to a hotel and she could fly the day after. I can't repeat what I screamed at the lady on the other end of the line, but it worked. BA sent Rita the 200 miles by a company limo. It was wonderful to see her, and she was a tonic for me at this sad time. We all grieved in our own way and did our best to bid farewell to Ian. The cremation on 22nd June was not overly lavish. We concentrated on all the little details that Ian would have been proud of. He had so many friends. There was standing room only in the chapel, and it was a fitting send-off for a guy that deserved the best. Words cannot express the sadness I still feel. And I really hope that what we are told is true, in that Ian will now know how much we all miss him. Ian had been born to be everybody's friend for 55 years. We flew back to Canada 2 weeks later, and I threw myself into working around the house, doing jobs that would have otherwise been done at a later date. I had to do this to take my mind off thinking about whom I could punish for taking away my best friend. Although it didn't work too well, it was the only thing I could do, and it did help a little. Apart from the obvious, we were both very happy and spent our days working on the house and then relaxing in our own miniature Ponderosa. The Ottawa River was only a couple of minutes away. We could see it from the end of our driveway. Also, there was a really nice sandy beach within walking distance, so we both enjoyed daily strolls around the scenic neighborhood. But I had also to stroll around the massive garden pushing a lawnmower. However, thinking how lucky we were to be living here eased the pain. One problem that I had to solve was where we could put the washing machine and dryer. The previous owners only used the place for a few days a month and simply took their washing back to their town home. We bought the appliances, and I rigged them up on the large deck at the side of the house. I'll bet the neighbors wondered who the hell had bought the place, seeing Rita doing the washing outside. Fortunately, the summer months permitted this unusual location. I did eventually build a laundry room, as the weather would surely change. Another task was to completely redo the bathroom. This I did, and the finished room was very pleasing, with the exception of the toilet. It leaned slightly to one side. No problem. I went in the basement to shimmy the floor a wee bit. Oh my God, what a surprise. I discovered that the main supports all around the house, I believe they are called bottom plates and skirts, were rotted. I was horrified. The only feasible explanation was that there had been a slight leak from the original toilet that had gone unnoticed for years, and the constant damp had caused the extensive decay. Our imaginations ran wild. Our little house was about to fall down, and we were scared to move around just in case the extra weight became the last straw for the foundation beams. It's hard to believe they still supported the walls. They were almost at the sawdust stage. Once again, our friend Bob came to the rescue. He assessed the problem and told us that it was a simple job to jack up the whole house and replace the defective wood, including the floor joists that had been affected. To prepare for this simple job, I very cautiously removed the siding and the old wood and bought all the necessary materials. Between myself, Bob, and another friend, the job was completed in a surprisingly short time and with no damage apart from a couple of cracks in the walls. What a relief. A bonus was that when we told the previous owner about the trouble, he was so upset, he paid for all the new wood, etc. Thank you, sir. You are a gentleman. It was now fall, and the warm, sunny days were becoming a rarity. We started to remember the harsh Canadian winters and wondered if we would still be happy in this isolated location. The thought of freezing temperatures and mounds of snow sent chills down our spines. We concluded that we had to go someplace else for the winter. Would our budget permit? What would we do without friends? Paul and Elda rang just about that time and extended us an invitation to their winter home. They had sold their house in Baja and bought a large mobile home in Florida. Don't freeze to death in Canada. Get your asses down to our place for the whole winter, were Paul's exact words. The timing was great, and we gladly accepted. We let our minds wander and thought about looking around for our own place whilst we were in Florida. Hey, you never know. It appears that all our problems had been overcome, and life was just great. We had a super summer home and now a sunny winter retreat, thanks to good friends. We were now set for life, at least for the foreseeable future, and with the opportunity of going south for the winters, we would surely remain in Luskville forever. Rita and I hope you have enjoyed reading about our experiences. God willing, and book sales, of course, we will continue recording our life as it unfolds. Incidentally, I hope you didn't get too annoyed about the language and the somewhat iffy grammar. It was never intended to be a literary masterpiece. Goodbye for now, and God bless. I'm sure you didn't believe me when I said that we would stay in Luskville forever. In case my health is not as good as I think it is, I should perhaps satisfy your curiosity. Forever was too long. We'll continue our story from when we moved from Luskville to New Brunswick and the surprise phone call in Florida regarding an exciting business offer. I accepted, sold our house in New Brunswick, and in July of 2002, we moved to Barbados for 2 years, for me to take up the position of managing director of an international business company. More travels and stories to come. Please allow me to express my sincere final sentiment. Since I started writing this book, certain special people patiently awaiting its publication have passed away. I would like to mention their names as a humble gesture of my love and admiration for them. I sincerely hope that somehow they will receive and accept this in honor of their impact on me in this life. Joe Scanlon, September 1999. Rita's brother and everybody's friend. He was loved and admired by everyone that knew him. Keith G. Barlow, February 1999. My good friend for 35 years and a super guy, Ellen Aspton, May 2000. My aunt and the kindest person who helped anybody that needed a loving friend, Ian Hodgkiss, June 2000. The best brother and friend I could wish for and miss every day. We were usually far apart, but always so very close. Even though the magnificent ship sails far away and over the horizon out of sight, it is still there and will remain a magnificent ship forever. That's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed the life that Rita and I sure did. I'll keep you updated. Bye for now, and thank you.